Alright guys, Commander Jaime here, and boy, we got some good news the past couple of days. We have Granblue and Aqua's good news. So first off, with Granblue, we got the new Nightrose Stride skill revealed. And so basically all it does for the first skill is an act once per turn. We Counter Blast and Persona Flip. We choose a card in a drop zone for each face-up card in our G zone plus one. So if you have one card face up on the on the G zone, and you flip, you target that many units plus an additional card in your drop zone to get that many. So let's say your first stride, you Counter Blast one, you flip one, you have one in the G zone, but you can call 2 units. So that's what I was saying. And then you call them to separate rearguard as hollowed. So the ruling between it is that you can actually call any units and they just become in the hollowed state, even though they don't have the hollow keyword. It's just some kind of state that they're gonna die at the end of the turn. So we can call cards like Negerbone, which is awesome. And then if you call 3 or more, it gets plus critical. So now we have Vanguard pressure on top of calling a field potentially, which is really good for Granblue because, to be honest, all our strides did was just call rearguards, and our rearguards did most of the work anyway, right? So there was no pressure from the Vanguard by itself in a sense. So having this plus critical is just icing to the cake, I guess you can call it, and it's nice. It's not GB2 restricted or anything like that, so you can do this first stride if you can't Gauche, you can't Obadiah, you can't, what's the other card? Negrosanger, there you go, right? Almost forgot about him. Where this might be a better card choice, and in a sense, if you first stride this, you get 2 cards. It's like a Night Mist stride. So, speaking of that, this would actually go very well in 7Cs, the Night Mist stride build, and of course Ghosties too. What's also important is that it has the Nightrose name, so we're able to use rearguards with Nightrose specific conditions like Negro Lazy, Negro Bone, and other variants, such as 7Cs, which I'm excited for. And the second skill is an auto Vanguard skill. When your battle phase begins, for each Nightrose card in your drop zone, choose each of your units up to that number, and they get plus 5. So it distributes 5,000 power to how many Nightrose is in the drop, which is fantastic because, like, it makes numbers and it makes the opponent drop more cards, which is fantastic. So it could be better than Gauche in certain situations. Depending on Gauche is very dependent on how many cards you have face up in the G zone to give sufficient power to pass certain thresholds. Where this is pretty solid, to be honest, and it's dependent on your Nightrose grade 3s in your drop. So it's very good, and it opens up the door for cards like Maltreat right here, where now you're not as heavy as your soul. So potentially, the reason I bring up Maltreat is because she gets plus 2,000 for each of your hollowed units. So if you have 5 rearguard circles that are hollowed, she gets a plus 10k. So she actually beats Negerook in the sense of 16k. If there's 4 rearguards in total, then you got 4 plus, it's 8,000 power, plus the 9 is 17k. So that itself is still a little bigger than Negerook, which making it a little more viable. So I'm not sure if Maltreat will actually replace Negerook or actually play a certain ratio between the two. And to be honest, testing will tell most. But the other utility of playing Maltreat over Negerook is because you get the counter charge. And it goes back to deck, so that's a nice plus on top of that. But having a rearguard that can counter charge on top of that, it helps the strain of Grenache and even Water Spout Djinn. And because if we have the ability to actually play Maltreats now, Seawall Banshee might become more viable. Because the problem is that sometimes you rather have the unflip than the possible of Soul Blasting, discarding a card, and then return this back to your hand. Honestly, I like this PG, but it's just, at the moment, it wasn't as viable when I played it. But in the future, with the new Nightrose stride, I think it could be a good choice now. I think only testing will tell. It's also a hollow unit, so that helps with, if you're still playing Dragoot after your G zone changes, then it's a hollow target, so you can't go wrong with that. Yeah. So overall, I think the Nightrose stride is really good. She can be played as a 2 or 4 of. I think she's gonna be a 4 of, to be honestly, just because she can do so much for so very little. And that way you can do different things in your main deck. You might be playing cards that you normally wouldn't be, like I just mentioned, 2 cards. Only time will tell, and playtesting will tell. So excited for that, right? It's cool. And then the nastiness is that if you can play Negro Bone or Negalese and so on in other decks like Ghosties or even 7Cs. I'm more interested in 7Cs. You know, you can have some nasty combos, and the fact that this persona flips, it doesn't slow you down with getting to GB8, so it's fantastic. And it gets crit, like your opponent, you're lethal at damage 3 potentially, and your opponent will actually have to guard your Vanguard. So enough about that. Let's get to Aqua Force. We have some announcements about the next coming episodes, and 2 episodes came in, but particularly the turn 3 episode was the one that caught people's eyes. Blue Wave Grand Marshal Valeos. So it's not officially confirmed, I think, yet, but this is a huge hint that potentially the new Diff Rider is a Blue Wave player and not a Maelstrom player or some new variant. So this excites me still, because Blue Wave and Tavas are really the ones that are viable right now before the set drops. So making a deck like Blue Wave even more supportive could really make it more like powerful and more likely, because it already has pre-existing good support. We have Huevos, we have Tetra Boil, we have Damia, we have the crit trigger that pluses you for every attack your Vanguard can do, you know, and so on. We have good support that is a standalone deck right now, and so getting a Blue Wave player as a Diff Rider means something good for Blue Waves, in my eyes. So I'm excited for that, if that's how the route goes. And I can tell from turn 4, the next episode after that, Valeos takes on Tayo. So that means he's probably going to beat Xion, more than likely, and then still face off Tayo. And to be honest, we don't know how that turns out, but I have a feeling that he might still beat Tayo and have a more prominent role in the Vanguard series, which is good for Aqua Force. So that way we can actually get more solid support. And to be honest, when this drops in December and events start up again, like ARGs or Bushiroad or whatever, I want to take Aqua Force if I can. If I'm not taking Aqua Force, I'll probably be taking Nightrose, especially if we get this Stride by that time, or even some other deck that I have to play. It just depends, right? But being able to play Blue Waves again in the competitive scene will be great. So this means good things, I think. So with that, I'll leave you guys at it. Comment, like, sub, and share. So see ya.